John Lyons there in Washington. A major trade exhibition for the aerospace and defence industries is taking place in Berlin this week. The ILA Air Show has become increasingly focused on defence in recent years as Europe pivots more and more towards that sector, with drone technology becoming a central focus. Deutsche Welle correspondent Arthur Sullivan joins us now from Berlin. Arthur, g'day. So how big a deal is this air show? Is it just a spectacle or is there serious business going on? And have there been any protests? Because often around the world when there are these exhibitions on, they can attract a few protests.
Hey Joe, so yeah, I mean, this event is held every 2 years. It claims to be the world's oldest air show, and its origins do go back to 1909. So it is a big spectacle here in Berlin when it does come to town. But it certainly is not just all fun and games. I mean, it is an important global gathering for the aerospace and defence sectors. Just to quickly address your question about the protests, I haven't seen any major protests so far unfold since it began. I mean, Germany does have quite a long-established pacifist movement, and you regularly see anti-war protests throughout Germany. There is a consistent voice against Germany's current defence spending, indeed, and its sales increasingly to other countries in terms of defence. But it hasn't been a major theme so far at this event. Defence is an increasingly important part, though, of this show, given the increase in commitment from European governments to spend in that sector over the past few years. And the list of companies and institutions operating and exhibiting here at this event this week is a who's who of not just the European sectors, but the global aviation and defence sectors. But obviously European companies dominate, and it is an opportunity for that sector to show its muscle at a time when manufacturers, both in terms of the more traditional defence areas and also the more innovative high-tech areas such as drone technology, which you mentioned, they're looking to show their wares and try and narrow the gap with their US rivals and benefit from this increased focus on defence spending.
And unsurprisingly, taking into account the nature of what's happened in Ukraine, drone tech is a major focus at this year's show. How much progress has Europe made with this increasingly common defence technology?
Well, yes. I mean, the Ukraine war and the Iranian war have really shown the world how vital this kind of drone and indeed anti-drone technology have become. One of the things about the European defence spending boom, which is really interesting. So, in the last few years, the governments have made this big commitment to spend a lot of money. And initially, there was some kind of worries that a lot of this money was being spent on that traditional hardware, so things like tanks, so not the kind of drone technology. But we're seeing signs this year that a lot of the stock market sort of boom around defence stocks in Europe, increasingly that's kind of fading because there's, first of all, worries about the spending, whether governments will follow through. But what we are seeing is an increased interest from investors in some of these drone startups and companies that are very focused on this type of innovation. And this year's event does showcase many European startups and firms who are focused on these areas and who are looking for funding, particularly European funding rather than US funding and venture capital to push forward, because there still is quite a heavy focus from US venture capital in this area rather than from Europe. And obviously those European startups and indeed European governments would prefer if it's European money investing in these companies. Now, some deals have been done already this week. Yesterday it was announced that Airbus, that's the huge European defence and aerospace company, they did a deal with a French anti-drone company called Alta Ares. And that was quite an interesting one because this company uses AI to enhance its ammunition to intercept, destroy drones. It's already used by the Ukrainian forces. And there are lots of other success stories. There's a German drone startup called Stark. They're exhibiting here this week. They've attracted the attention of the well-known US tech billionaire Peter Thiel, who's often been right about some of his early-stage investments. There's other German startups such as Helsing, Quantum Systems. These are companies that are using AI to develop drone technology. And although, again, as I said, a lot of it's coming from across the Atlantic, there is this hope that an event like this will showcase what's happening in the European sector and that it will lead to a financial commitment from investors in Europe itself. So some bright news in this sense from Europe, that they are finally getting there when it comes to this more innovative defence tech.
OK, Arthur Sullivan there in Berlin. Masked groups have rampaged through the streets of Belfast for a third night, spreading fear among ethnic minorities.